Welcome back to the American Dream. Hope you're enjoying your Saturday morning. Got your coffee ready to go. In case you ever miss anything on the show, don't forget, we upload all the clips to craigsewing.com. There's DVR. Get you set up for next week as well. We always encourage you to visit us online, ask questions. I want to get to an email real quick. We also can have you go to facebook.com/craigsewing. We're trying to push over 10,000 likes. I think we're a few hundred shy of that right now. Follow the show. Ask us your questions there. Shoot them over, and we always respond, usually within 24 hours. Here's an example of one we got recently. Hi guys, love the radio show and TV show. How much longer do you expect QE3 to be in the mix? What about short-term interest rates? What will the consequences be of the movements? All right, Daryl, that's a long one, so I'm just going to talk about interest rates in general. If you would have asked me at the beginning of the year what I thought mortgage rates were going to do, in fact, I don't have to say this is what I would have said. This is what I said. I said mortgage rates would be higher. So proof that I don't have a crystal ball. Janet Yellen, QE3, she's backed off, she's tapered. Now we're down to $45 billion a month in bond buying. You would have thought mortgage rates would have rose, but the free marketplace has picked them back up. The U.S. safe haven of bonds is still a great place for money. That's keeping their yields down. Annual lows on mortgage rates happened about a week or two ago. So good opportunities to look at refinancing, good opportunities for you renters to explore buying. If you'd like to get an analysis, visit me online. We'll create that for you. We've got obviously an elite team that can help us do that. All right, I'm going to switch gears. Thanks for the question, Daryl. I'm going to switch gears and talk a little bit about what's happening in the news. And now we're not a political show, but I certainly have opinions. You can get a lot more of my opinions when you tune into the radio show on 1170 AM KCBQ weeknights at 6 p.m. You're going to see me a lot more passionate, a lot more animated. However, when it comes to our military, this is something we got to get right as a country. This is a bipartisan issue, whether it's the VA scandal, the POW, or the situation happening in Iraq. This is not a time for politics. This is a time for policy and getting this right. It's truly been unacceptable. We've had poor leadership. There's a reason that Congress has an 8% approval rating. So it really is disappointing, especially when you have a military town like America's finest city here in San Diego. So very disappointed in how things have been handled. To help me just understand what's going on a little bit better, our military expert, host of Military Mondays on KCBQ 1170 AM. My co-host, I host at 6, you host at 7 now with Daniel Lehman.
Yes.
What's up, man?
Let's talk about, I think the Iraq situation is probably the...
Let's talk about your radio show. It's going to get heated when we talk about Iraq.
Well, the radio show is going really well. We just interviewed Navy football's head coach. We've interviewed
Where
quite
you
a
played?
few. I did play there. Not very well, but I did play there.
Clearly, the audience did not mistake you for a baseball player at Navy.
Or a golfer or a soccer player.
Yeah, I think fullback is kind of the story just from the look at the shoulders there. So, okay, played at Navy.
On the show, we brought on some great local heroes, some local business owners who have started from nothing, accomplished great things, all veterans, and some great veterans charities. So it's definitely, we're trying to highlight to the veteran community, first of all, you can get employment outside. We've got a lot of corporate recruiters coming on who are going to help our listeners prepare themselves for the outside world, which is big. Yep. And we've got a lot of veterans charities and veteran heroes. So there's a lot of things that we're trying to tap into.
I couldn't be more excited for your show, man. I'm a huge supporter of the military. I haven't served as you have, and thank you for your service.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, it's a cool show to help fan the fire on it. And certainly, I hope you can tune in. It's 1170 AM KCBQ, 7 p.m. on Mondays, Military Mondays. John Reeves, Daniel Lehman. So a hot topic right now is the story in Iraq. Let's take a quick look from the news this week.
The brutal advance across Iraq by the Islamic militants known as ISIS continued Tuesday. The latest target, the city of Baquba, less than 40 miles north of Baghdad. Meanwhile, President Obama continues to weigh just how involved the U.S. should get. He'll meet with top congressional leaders on the topic Wednesday. Standing by in the Persian Gulf, the U.S. aircraft carrier George H.W. Bush, 5 other warships, and more than 500 Marines. Dozens of Marines and Army troops have moved in around the massive American embassy complex in Baghdad to bolster security. Place is not the only country with an eye on the escalating crisis. And some experts say any kind of action by the U.S. or international community won't solve the wider problem.
Iraq is driven.
The goal of ISIS is to establish a strict Islamic state that extends largely from Syria to a large portion of Iraq. In Washington, I'm Karen Kafa.
Well, I think, Craig, it's certainly a given that this was going to happen. Yep. All of us who served realized as soon as we evacuated out of there. I shouldn't say evacuate, but as soon as we withdrew from there,
Yep.
we left a power vacuum, which is the same thing that happened in Afghanistan after the Russians left. We left, and look what happened there.
Yep.
That's why we had 9/11. There was a power vacuum of Islamist extremists who went in.
You get arguments on both sides, and both can make sense. One, we can't stay there forever.
True.
Right? Two, we shouldn't have withdrawn so quickly, and I think the evidence in that statement is you're seeing on
of
TV
course.
right now. For me, it's no matter what, it's a mess, right? If we never went into Iraq in the first place and you leave a dictator there, it's a problem, right?
Absolutely.
The first thing that I think our country needs to do when we talk about issues like this is come together, not split apart,
Nope.
which is what you see in the media and what you see in the partisanship in politics. But our country should come together. We should realize, first and foremost, that when we talk about things, the first thing we should do is say thank you to our military. You guys served honorably. You took out a dictator, a mass murderer, and for that we should be very thankful. Mm-hmm. No matter what with this situation, it's going to be a mess. If we didn't go into Iraq, it's going to be a mess. We went into Iraq, it's a mess. We pull out of Iraq probably too early, it's a mess. Ultimately, you can't, blaming Bush is not a policy, even blaming Obama is not a policy. The question is where do you go from here?
Well, I was on the ground in Iraq. I saw the way the Iraqi people responded to us as Americans. They were very happy that we were there. We unseated a dictator and his two sons who were absolute psychopaths, who were oppressing the Iraqi people. The problem is we rolled out of there so quickly after we had toppled them. I mean, 10 years, when you're thousands of years under oppression, you can't just roll out in 10 short years and say, okay, it's a political agenda, we're done in Iraq. Now they're left on their own to flounder around. We owe it to the Iraqi people. We created the mess by toppling a dictator who was very oppressive. Let's help the Iraqi people, the country of Iraq now, just like we did after World War II with Germany and Japan. We didn't just take off and say, all right, fix it. We knocked all the pieces down. We stayed there and we were committed to them. They're one of the biggest oil producing and exporting countries in the world. So having someone who has a terrorist regime in charge of those oil assets is very, very dangerous. It's a geopolitical threat.
And the question is, well, what do you do now? I don't think the American people have the will to put boots on the ground, nor should we necessarily. We do have technology, innovation such as drones, but I mean, where are you going to bomb? I mean, are you going to align with the Sunnis or the Shiites? Are you going to align with Iran in a situation like this? So it gets back to my original point. No matter how you even position yourself now, it's going to be a mess. And this is what gets so frustrating to me, is knowing that there's going to be so many different ways you can second guess every move made by any president, any commander in chief. What kills me is the talking heads in the media that have to have an opinion and slam their hands on the table and act like they have any clue what they're talking about. And I feel like the message is being lost into the ratings game versus, really, again, coming together and really determining how do you fight a war on terror.
Oh, you're right.
And I kind of lean back to, well, you start here and move out, which is you strengthen your defense. We have 50,000 illegal immigrants entering Texas every month now. That's not anything to speak about immigration issues. It's just to say, look, we have very open borders, right? I mean, so you got to start there. You have to start with technology here and the way that you keep track of national terrorists, and then I think move out from there.
I think a problem, Craig, with our foreign policy is that it swings with who's ever in power. We back Iraq during the Iran-Iraq war, then we back Iran, then we're back to. We need to come up with a policy and stick by whoever we choose to support and stay with them. Regardless of who comes in and out of power, we need to back the countries that we've committed to. We have a massive commitment to Iraq. We are the reason they're in this problem. We need to stick by this nation now and help them out. It's a quagmire. It's way beyond mess. It is definitely a quagmire, but we're in it. We've got to stay in it.
You want to talk Bergdahl? Last time I had you on the show, we almost had to take you off set.
It was probably a good thing that the lawyer was here because we didn't say anything.
Well, you got started. I think you said you wanted to rip his head off or something. No, you wanted to rip the terrorist heads off. I remember that.
Punch you in the mouth.
I think you are capable of doing that. The Bergdahl story, another very important issue. Let's take a look at it here.
General to investigate how and why Sergeant Bo Bergdahl left his base in Afghanistan, resulting in his capture by the Taliban. Bergdahl spent 5 years in captivity until his release last month. He returned to the United States earlier this week to continue medical treatment. Bergdahl was exchanged for 5 Taliban figures being held at a U.S. military detention facility in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. The investigation is expected to start next week, but it's not clear when Bergdahl will undergo formal questioning. The identity of the general investigating the case has not yet been made.
Well,
He's back.
I think the Army general who's going to investigate this has a great deal of experience. His wife is a veteran. He's got plenty of experience in this type of thing. I think the U.S. Army did a great thing by appointing somebody in charge of this investigation. Yep. We'll see how it all rolls out and what the fallout is, but I think it's going to be a lot different than what everyone's expecting.
Yeah, again, I don't really understand this one. You know, we'll find out if he's a deserter or not. I'm not going to try him here, but I went to kindergarten. I know math. I know what 5 is and I know what 1 is. And I feel like we traded a water pistol for 5 bazookas, right? But, you know, another decision. And look, we don't want to leave a man behind. I get that. But look what we traded in.
What's the cost?
We negotiated with terrorists. We put him back into the hands of the bad guy.
Well, they said they won't do anything bad.
And then they spiked the football in the Rose Garden.
Yeah.
Because it was and you brought that up last time. I think you were on the radio show. It was politics at its best because it was being used going into a midterm election, and then it backfired when they realized, you know, what might be this guy's story.
Did the homework, they realized, oh, maybe we shouldn't have gone to such great extent to get this guy back.
Well,
we'll see.
A lot to talk about. That's why we have you on the show.
Yep.
And John Reeves, military expert. Now, I also got to remind our audience, you are a top producing real estate elite here with our show. You're on my radio show with regularity. You have your own radio show, Military Mondays. This show is a San Diego-based show. John Reeves is a top-producing VA realtor, which essentially means if you've served in our military, he is the guy you want to go to. Did over 100 deals last year. Your team is aligned with other vets. It's pretty awesome what you guys have going on. Could you speak to that real quick?
Yeah,
I want to answer some emails about VA.
We're a veteran-focused, veteran-centric, veteran-owned, veteran-operated company where everyone in our value system, lenders, home inspectors, everybody is military affiliated or a veteran themselves. Why? Because we want to give to the veteran the experience that you're dealing with someone who has been in your shoes. For us, by us, we have been in your exact same position, and therefore we are postured to help you the best. We understand it.
If you've served, he's the guy. Really that simple. ReefPointRealty.com. Really that simple. You're buying a house, you're selling a house. He's the expert on all this. We get so many emails about this. I think the radio show has proven that we have an audience that appreciates our military.
Yes.
And it's been a pretty cool thing for me hosting my show for years and now having you on the 7 p.m. hour. But here's some of the questions that we've gotten. I hope you can help me answer them while we got you here. Craig, what are the benefits of buying a home VA? This is Steve, who's a vet. You can help me with this.
Easy.
I mean, 100% financing, low interest rate, no mortgage insurance.
Financing, no, like you said, no mortgage insurance, and the fact that you get a better interest rate. Your interest rate is lower with the VA loan than it is conventional or FHA, and the fact that you have to put zero down up to 546,250.
So let me throw this at you. Let me piggyback on that question. Low inventory, we're going to be talking about that a little bit later, but there's not many homes on the market. So we've heard that there's challenges if you're a VA financed buyer to be able to get your offer accepted. Versus if you heard Pete Middleton, he's like, someone just bought a $24 million house cash.
Yeah.
You know, so there's a lot of cash buyers at $400,000, $500,000, $600,000. If you have VA financing versus a cash buyer, how do you win?
I think it's the way you posture the offer. It's the company that you use to help you find the home and write the offer, and it's the lender that you use to align with. If you have those 3 things going for you, we don't have any problems doing that because we know how to posture our buyer for success.
Okay, I want to get to another email. Craig, if I own a home with VA financing, can I buy another property with VA? Not a name here, but now I'm not an underwriter. You know, in a former life, I was a residential mortgage banker, so I used to know underwriting guidelines. All of a sudden, these things change, and we're going to have a mortgage banker here in a bit, and Jason Gordon. But my understanding is that if you have VA, you're not able to have 2 VAs. Don't you have to transfer from one to the other?
So you can, as long as the maximum doesn't exceed the county max for a loan. For example, here it's $546,250. So if you have a home that you own on a $200,000 loan, you can buy another one at $346,250.
So you can?
Yes, you can.
This is why I bring experts in. If you're the smartest guy in the room, you're in the wrong room. John Reeves, military expert, good friend, radio show host, top producing realtor. Always great to have you on the show. Good luck with your radio show. I hope people tune in. 1170 AM KCBQ, 7 p.m. at night, right after my show at 6 p.m. Great segment there. And obviously, these are some hot button items. All right, coming up now, we got another radio show host who's going to be joining me, Kyle Whistle. He's out of East County. He has a radio show called Whistle Wednesdays, which is at 7 p.m. on KCBQ. Going to talk about what's happening in his marketplace. You're watching The American Dream. Back in a moment.